Most people will never understand why some individuals make them feel uneasy the moment they enter a room. It is not because they are loud, aggressive, or trying to dominate anyone. It is something more subtle, something quiet, something that exists beneath normal conversation like a hidden current under still water. What is even more interesting is that the people who have this effect usually do not realize it themselves. They were never taught it directly. No one ever explained it to them or trained them on how to control a room. It simply developed over time, slowly and quietly, often through some kind of struggle or pain. This discussion is about that hidden quality, where it comes from, what it really is, and why most people are unknowingly trained to lose it at the exact moment in life when they needed it the most. Before going further, there is something important you should know. That what you are about to hear may go against many of the ideas you have been taught about respect, communication, and how to behave around others. Some parts may feel uncomfortable or unfamiliar. And near the end, there is one idea that most people do not see coming at all. Still, if you stay with it, by the end you will understand human behavior in a way that most people never fully grasp in their entire lives. To begin, there was a study from the 1970s that changed how psychologists understood influence between people. A researcher named Albert Mehrabian studied what actually creates impact in communication. Not just the words people say, but what makes others trust them, follow them, or feel drawn to them. The results were surprising for many experts at the time. The actual words people use matter far less than most believe. What matters much more is everything around those words. The tone, the pauses, the silence, and the stillness between speech. This idea has been tested many times since then, and it keeps pointing to the same conclusion. Influence is not created by speaking more or saying better sentences. It is created through presence, timing, and control of expression. In simple terms, power is not something that is forced. It is something that is projected naturally, and most of the time the person projecting it is not even aware they are doing it. There are several behaviors that create this effect. Most people who show these behaviors are not conscious of them. And equally important, the people around them do not fully understand why they feel a certain way in their presence. This is not about manipulation or pretending to be confident. It is about understanding why some actions change the energy of a room before a single clear statement is even made. The first behavior is something people often misunderstand. It is emotional control, but not in the simple way people usually talk about it. Most people are told to stay calm and not react, but they are never told why this matters on a deeper level. When someone provokes you, insults you, or tries to get a reaction from you, they are often testing something without realizing it. They are looking for a response that reveals your emotional stability. In psychological terms, these are called dominance signals. Every human brain constantly reads these signals to understand social position and strength. When you react emotionally, you reveal that your internal state can be changed by external people. This does not mean you are weak as a person, but in social perception it shows that others can influence your emotional balance. And once people sense that, consciously or not, the dynamic changes. When someone pushes you and you react quickly, they gain information about you. They now know there is a button they can press. Even if they do not think about it clearly, their brain registers it. But when you do not react, something very different happens. The expected pattern breaks. The other person anticipates a reaction, but it never comes. That creates confusion in their mind because the situation no longer follows their prediction. At that moment, you become less predictable, and unpredictability triggers caution in human behavior. The interaction shifts, not because you spoke or acted, but because you did not respond in the expected way. Your silence becomes a kind of control. It forces the other person to deal with their own expectations rather than your reaction. This does not mean suppressing emotion or pretending not to feel anything. It means learning to respond based on choice instead of impulse. There is a major difference between reacting instantly and responding intentionally. One gives control away, the other keeps control within you. Over time, this single difference can completely change how people treat you and how you experience social situations. The second behavior is something that goes against what many people are taught from childhood. It is the habit of constantly explaining yourself, not communicating clearly when needed, but over-justifying your decisions, emotions, and choices to people who did not even ask for an explanation. People who have strong presence rarely feel the need to explain every decision they make. They act, and they allow their actions to stand on their own. When someone constantly explains themselves, it often signals that they are seeking approval or validation from others, even if they are not aware of it. This creates a perception that their decisions are open for judgment and correction. In contrast, people who do not over-explain appear more grounded. They do not rush to justify themselves. They do not feel pressure to defend every action. This creates a sense of internal stability in the eyes of others. It communicates that they trust their own judgment. When someone asks too many questions about your choices, and you immediately start explaining in detail, something subtle happens in the interaction. You move into a position of defense. The other person, even without realizing it, moves into a position of evaluation. The balance shifts. What could have been a simple decision becomes something that requires approval. The alternative is not silence for the sake of mystery, but calm confidence. You do not feel the need to fill every gap with justification. You allow your decisions to exist without constant explanation, and when necessary, you communicate clearly but without overloading it with unnecessary defense. Silence, in these moments, is not emptiness. It is presence. It shows that you are not dependent on agreement to remain stable in your choices. And when people sense that, they treat your words differently. They carry more weight. The third behavior is something most people never consciously notice, yet they feel it immediately when someone has it. It is the way a person occupies space, not just physically, but socially and mentally. Some individuals enter a room and, without saying much, they seem to take up more presence than others. This does not come from trying to dominate or impress people. It comes from something quieter and more stable inside them. In group settings, researchers have often observed that attention naturally settles around one person in the room, even when that person is not speaking. It is rarely the loudest individual or the one trying hardest to be noticed. Instead, it is usually the person who appears least dependent on the room's approval. This is an important point. The less someone seems to need attention, validation, or permission, the more naturally attention moves toward them. This happens because human beings are constantly scanning their environment for signals of stability and confidence. When someone seems internally grounded, others unconsciously treat them as more important in the social structure. Not because they demanded it, but because they are not visibly seeking anything from the environment around them. You cannot fake this effectively. People may try to act confident, but if internally they are still seeking approval, it shows in small ways, through rushed speech, nervous movement, or overreaction to feedback. Real presence comes from a deeper shift, where a person stops needing constant reassurance from others to feel stable. This also affects how you move, how you speak, and how you respond in conversations. People with strong presence do not rush their words. They are not trying to fill silence quickly. They are comfortable pausing. They are comfortable being observed without feeling pressure to perform. A key truth behind this behavior is simple but powerful. Other people's perception of you is not something you can directly control in a healthy way. What you can control is who you become internally. And when that internal state becomes stable, perception adjusts naturally around it. The fourth behavior is selective investment of attention and energy. This is where many people struggle without realizing it. Most individuals are taught, directly or indirectly, that being a good person means being available to everyone equally, to respond to every message, every request, every emotional demand, and every expectation without discrimination. At first, this may seem like kindness, but over time it creates exhaustion. When your time, attention, and emotional energy are spread evenly across everyone, including those who drain you, you begin to lose balance. You become tired, less patient, and more reactive. And ironically, instead of becoming more giving, you often become resentful. Selective investment means something very different. It means you consciously decide where your attention goes. You do not give the same level of energy to everyone. Some people earn deeper access to your time and focus while others do not. This is not about treating people badly. It is about recognizing limits and respecting your own capacity. When you stop being equally available to everyone, the dynamics around you change quickly. Some people may react negatively at first because they are used to having unrestricted access to you. They may question your behavior or say you have changed, but at the same time, something else happens. The relationships that are healthy become stronger because they now receive your real presence instead of your scattered attention. People often do not realize that attention is not unlimited. When you constantly give it away without boundaries, you end up having less of it for the things and people that actually matter. Over time, this weakens connection instead of strengthening it. The fifth behavior is the ability to observe people deeply instead of just hearing them. Most people do not truly listen. They wait for their turn to speak. While someone else is talking, they are already preparing their response, thinking about what they will say next, or comparing it to their own experiences. Real observation is different. It means paying attention not only to words, but also to tone, hesitation, body language, and what is not being said. People often reveal more through what they avoid saying than what they openly express. When you begin to observe instead of just participate, conversations change. You start noticing patterns in how people think, how they defend themselves, and where their uncertainty lies. Many people are not used to being observed at this level, so when it happens, they may feel slightly exposed or understood in a way they did not expect. This creates a strong impression because most interactions in daily life are shallow and fast. Very few people feel truly seen. So when someone actually pays attention in a deeper way, it leaves a lasting impact. This does not mean analyzing people to control them. It simply means being fully present and aware, instead of distracted and self-focused. Over time, this level of attention naturally makes your presence more noticeable in social situations. The sixth behavior is allowing people to experience the results of their own actions without you stepping in to protect them from it. Many people who are kind or caring tend to take responsibility for other people's comfort, even when it is not their responsibility. For example, someone may act carelessly toward you, and instead of allowing that behavior to create natural consequences, you soften it. Or someone may disrespect your time, and you adjust your life to protect them from discomfort. In doing this repeatedly, you unintentionally remove the feedback they need to understand their behavior. Human beings learn most effectively through consequences, not explanations. When every mistake is absorbed by someone else, there is no reason for change. But when people are allowed to face the natural results of their behavior, they begin to understand limits and responsibility. This is not about being harsh. It is about not interfering with reality. If someone values your presence, they will adjust their actions. If they do not, they will naturally drift away when they no longer receive unlimited accommodation. When you stop carrying consequences for others, something important happens in your life. Your relationships become clearer. The ones that are mutual grow stronger. The ones that depend only on your constant adjustment begin to fade. And while that process can feel uncomfortable at first, it creates a more honest environment around you.